Some stories aren't passed down because they're too terrifying to be remembered. Others because no one survives to tell them. This one, I lived through it. And even now, I still don't know how I'm alive. Back then, I was just another face in the crowd. My name is Elin, and I grew up in the slums outside the old district of San Bartolome. If you ask people there about me, they'd probably say I was that strange, quiet girl who always wore the same faded hoodie and kept her head down. My father left before I could remember his face. My mother worked herself sick cleaning other people's homes, and when she died, just like that, one rainy morning, it felt like the world ended. I was 16, alone, barely surviving. That's when I moved into my grandmother's house, a small, crumbling structure tucked at the edge of the forest, far from the main barangay. People avoided that road. Some said it was cursed. Others joked that even ghosts got lost in those trees. But it was all I had. The first night I spent there, I didn't sleep much. The roof leaked. The wind hissed through the broken windows. But it wasn't the cold or the loneliness that made my skin crawl. It was the sound of soft tapping beneath the floorboards. At first, I thought it was rats. I told myself that 100 times. But as the hours passed, the tapping turned into scratching. Slow, purposeful, almost like something was trying to get out. I tried to laugh it off the next day. Maybe I was just imagining things. I hadn't eaten properly in days. Maybe grief was playing tricks on me. But it got worse. Every night, the sound returned, and every night, it moved closer to where I slept. By the fourth night, I heard breathing. Not mine, not from outside, from beneath me. But I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe a girl like me? I had no one except Isha. Isha was the only friend I had. She was wild and fearless, loved by many but close to few. We met during the outreach programs when I was younger. Even when others forgot my name, she remembered. She'd bike to my place, sometimes just to check on me or bring leftovers from her family store. When I finally told her about the noise, she laughed at first. Maybe the house is just old, she said. Creaks and cracks are part of it. But then her smile faded. Unless there's something under the house. I didn't want to entertain that thought, but I couldn't deny what I had heard. To ease my nerves, she started visiting more often. We'd sit on the broken porch, sharing cheap snacks and stories. For a while, it felt like things might be okay. We even joked about writing a book, The Girl and the Ghost Who Paid No Rent. But deep inside, I felt something watching, waiting. It was the little things at first. Doors I closed, swinging open, cold spots in the hallway, a shadow that moved just a beat too late behind my own. And then I found the photo. It was wedged inside one of the loose floorboards I accidentally kicked while cleaning. An old, yellowed image of a girl around my age. She wore a white dress, hair tied back neatly, standing in front of the same house. Her eyes were scratched out. On the back, someone had written a date, June 14th, 1976, and the words, "She never left." I froze. I didn't know who she was. My grandmother had never mentioned any other girls in the family. But something in my chest tightened, as if I was looking at someone who had never truly gone. That night, I didn't sleep at all. Instead, I sat on the porch with Isha. She didn't laugh this time when I told her about the photo. She was quiet for a long time before whispering, "I heard stories. A girl who went missing. They said she vanished without a trace." My throat was dry. From this house, Isha just nodded. The silence between us was heavy, filled with questions we didn't want answers to. Later, just before dawn, we heard it again. The scratching. Louder now, and this time, it wasn't under the floor. It was in the walls. We stood frozen as something dragged its nails, slow, deliberate, across the wooden panels. My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd faint. Isha grabbed my arm, her face pale. "We need to leave," she whispered. But I didn't move. I couldn't. Something inside me, curiosity or madness, told me we had to know what this was. So the next morning, While Isha begged me to go stay with her family, I stayed behind. I searched every inch of the house. In the farthest room, the one with the cracked mirror and the sagging ceiling, I found it. A trapdoor. It was hidden beneath a carpet, nailed down tightly. I didn't open it right away. My hands trembled as I stared at it. Whatever was down there wasn't meant to be found. But just as I turned to leave, I heard it. A voice, whispering my name, from beneath the trapdoor. My name echoed from beneath the trapdoor like a forgotten memory clawing its way back into the world. Elin, the whisper wasn't angry. It wasn't even loud, but made my blood run cold. Like someone I used to know had been waiting there all along, watching, listening. I wanted to run. Every part of me told me to leave, to never return. But something deeper, stronger, rooted me to the floor. That voice knew me, and somehow, I knew it too. I didn't open the trapdoor that day. Instead, I nailed the carpet back down and shoved a cabinet over it. Isha came later, asking what I found. Elite. I told her it was nothing, just a storage panel. She stared at me, eyes narrowed, like she knew I wasn't being honest. But she didn't press. That night, I dreamed of the girl from the photo. Her scratched-out eyes weren't blank anymore. They glowed, a soft, weeping white light, and her mouth kept whispering the same name. Amara. Amara, that wasn't my name. But when I woke up, my pillow was damp with tears. The days that followed were heavier. The air in the house felt thicker, like it was filled with secrets too old to speak. The lights flickered more often. I found birds, dead ones, lined up on the windowsill, their necks twisted, eyes wide with terror. I asked a nearby Tindra if she knew anything about the house. She hesitated, then crossed herself. That house, she said. Your Lola used to live there, no? There were stories. That it was cursed. Haunted. Some say your family had deals with creatures from the other side. My grandmother had never spoken much. When I was little and visited her, she was always quiet, staring at the woods beyond the house. Once I asked her why she lived so far from everyone. She just replied, to protect them. I never understood what she meant. But now, the puzzle pieces were starting to fall into place. Back at home, I began digging through old boxes in the attic. I found letters, journals, things I had never seen before. Most were from my Lola. Faded pages written in deep, looping Tagalog script. Some were prayers. Others were warnings. One page stood out. If Elin finds this, know that the shadows will rise again. The curse cannot be hidden forever. The mutya must never fall into the wrong hands. Taped behind the note was a small, cloudy gemstone, pale blue, almost gray. It shimmered faintly even without light. The mutya, as soon as I touched it, I felt a jolt, like ice water pouring through my veins. Visions flashed in my mind. Fire, screaming, shadows flying through the trees. And a woman, my grandmother, chanting beneath the moonlight, surrounded by salt and ash. I dropped the stone. My breathing was heavy. Isha came running when she heard me scream. I showed her the mutya, the letter, the journals. This is bad, Elin, she whispered. Really bad. My Lola used to tell stories about aswangs who lived deep in the mountains. They hated your Lola, said she trapped one of their kind, kept them from feeding. I stared at the mutya. You think that's what this is about? Some grudge. Isha shook her head. It's deeper than that. Curses don't just stick to one person. They follow the bloodline. That night, I dream again, but this time I wasn't alone. I stood in a field under the blood moon, and from the tall grass came a figure, tall, with skin like weathered stone and eyes that glowed green. A shokoy, but unlike the ones from the storybooks, this one wore beads, necklaces, shells. His voice sounded like waves crashing on distant shores. You carry a burden that was never yours, he said, but you are the key to ending it. What is it? I asked. Why me? He pointed to the mutya, now glowing in my palm. The curse was sealed with this. Your blood can awaken it or destroy it. Then he added, but you are not ready. They are coming. I woke up gasping. The mutya pulsed faintly on my desk like it remembered the dream too. The next day, things began to change. I started seeing shadows that didn't belong. I heard growls in the trees at night. My reflection in the mirror didn't always move with me. Even Isha started keeping her distance. My mom says I shouldn't come here anymore, she said. She says the forest spirits are angry. I wanted to argue, but I saw it in her eyes, fear. Not just for me, but for herself. So I stayed alone. The house creaked louder. Doors slammed without wind. One night, I found strange symbols drawn in charcoal outside the house. Protective sigils, like the ones in my grandmother's journals. Someone was trying to help me, or warn me. That's when I saw her again, the girl in white. She stood at the edge of the forest just before the sun rose. Same white dress, same scratched-out face. But this time, she turned toward me. Her hand pointed to the trapdoor. It was time. I dragged the cabinet away and lifted the carpet. The wood was older than I remembered, soft, like it had been rotting for years. I pried it open with a crowbar and peered inside. A wooden staircase spiraled down into darkness. The air smelled of earth, salt, and something old. I tied a mutya around my neck with string and stepped down. 1 step, 2, then 10. The darkness closed in, and the door slammed shut above me. I wasn't alone anymore. From the shadows came a voice. Familiar, you shouldn't have come here. And then something moved, something huge. Eyes like burning coals open in the dark. And they were smiling. The trapdoor slammed shut above me, sealing me in a silence so thick it felt alive. The mutya around my neck pulsed softly like a heartbeat, and I gripped it like a lifeline. I stood at the edge of the unknown, staring into the dark that no light dared to touch. And then, a voice whispered again, not from far, but close, too close. You shouldn't have come here. The voice was old, wounded, familiar. I spun around, but saw nothing, only the stone walls and the spiraling wooden stairs I'd come down from. But I knew I wasn't alone. As my eyes adjusted, I saw carvings on the walls. Ancient symbols, smeared with what looked like dried blood and ash. Some were fresh. Someone, or something, had been here recently. I forced myself to move forward, deeper into the chamber below. Each step echoed louder than the last. The air thickened. Then I saw it. A wooden altar stood in the center of the chamber, covered in cloth and dried leaves. Upon it sat an old photograph, faded and curled. I stepped closer. It was a picture of my mother, young, smiling, but standing beside a woman I didn't recognize. They held hands, and both had the same mutya I now wore. Why had my mother never told me about this place? About the curse? I felt heat rise in my chest, confusion, grief, and betrayal. Had she known all along? Had she left me to carry this burden alone? I backed away from the altar, dizzy. That's when I heard it, a growl, low and slow, from the corner of the room. I turned, heart thudding in my throat. From the shadows crawled a creature. Long arms, sharp teeth, skin as dark as soil. Its eyes glowed faintly, green and hateful. It didn't charge. It just watched, breathing heavily. I stepped back slowly, mutya clutched tight. My voice trembled. What do you want from me? The creature's voice was like broken glass. It's not about what we want. It's about what you owe. Then it vanished, like smoke curling into the dark. I ran, up the stairs, through the door, back into the house. The air outside was cooler, but I couldn't breathe. My head spun. My chest ached. I stayed locked in my room for hours after that, hugging myself, eyes on the mutya. If the curse was real, if my mother knew, then why had she left me behind? Why hadn't she warned me? That night, I dreamed again. Not of the shokoy, not of fire or forests, but of my mother. She stood at the edge of a river, holding the same mutya. Her face was pale and sad. "Forgive me," she said. "I try to protect you." And then she dissolved into water. When I woke up, I couldn't stop crying. I wanted to believe she did what she could, but the anger was louder than my hope. Isha came the next day, sneaking past her parents. She sat beside me on the porch and held my hand in silence. After a while, I told her everything about the creature, the photo, the dream. She looked down, rubbing her thumb across my palm. My Lola used to say, "Sometimes family keeps secrets to protect us, but sometimes they keep secrets to protect themselves." Those words cut deep. Were we cursed because of what my Lola did, or because of what my mother didn't do? I needed answers. The next morning, I took the photo from the altar and visited the oldest person in the barangay, Nanong Celia. She lived alone at the foot of the hills and was once known as an albularia. When she saw the photo, her face went pale. "She was one of them," Nanong whispered. "Your Lola, she made a pact to save your mother, gave up something sacred, and in return, the Aswangs demanded silence." I asked her what kind of pact. Nanong Celia took a long breath. "She bound one of their kind into the earth under your house, trapped it with blood, salt, and mutya. But the curse never broke, it only waited." "And my mother?" I asked. "Why didn't she tell me?" "Because she ran," Nanong said. "Left the burden for the next generation. Maybe she thought she was keeping you safe. Or maybe she just couldn't face what she'd been part of." The anger inside me shifted into something heavier, something more painful. Not hate, loss. I walked home as the sky darkened, the wind colder than usual. On the path near the forest, I saw a figure watching me. Thin, long arms, too tall to be human. It didn't move, didn't blink, just watched. I ran. That night, I stayed awake, mutya in hand, the shokoy's words echoing in my mind. "You are not ready. They are coming." I started reading my Lola's journals more seriously. I found rituals, small protections. I spread salt on my windowsills, drew old symbols with chalk under my bed. I began training myself, not with weapons, but with awareness. The house was no longer just a home. It was a battleground. Every creak mattered. Every gust of wind might be a whisper. One night, I heard something scratching on the roof. When I peeked through the curtains, I saw it. A woman, no, a thing, with skin stretched tight over her bones, eyes glowing red, mouth full of fangs. She smiled at me through the glass. I stepped back, and behind me, I heard a voice. "Low, calm. She's just a scout. The real ones will come in the full moon." I spun around. It was the shokoy, standing in my hallway like he'd always belonged there. His body shimmered like moonlit waves. "You said I wasn't ready," I whispered. He nodded. "You're still not. But you have something they fear." He touched the mutya gently. "This is more than protection. It's a memory of everything they try to bury. As long as you wear it, they can't take your soul, but they'll try to take everything else." I looked up at him, tears forming again. "Why me?" "Because you remember," he said. "And remembering is the first step to breaking the curse." Then he vanished. I stood alone in the hallway, the mutya glowing faintly against my chest. Somewhere outside, a howl rose in the night, and I knew this was just the beginning. The days after the shokoy's warning passed like a blur. Each night felt heavier, each shadow longer. The air around the house turned thick and sour, as if the forest itself had stopped breathing. And deep in my chest, I could feel something building, a pressure I couldn't explain. The full moon was only 3 days away. I barely slept. I stayed awake reading my Lola's journals, lighting candles, tracing protective symbols with trembling hands. Isha started coming back every afternoon, despite her mother's strict warnings. She brought food, kept me grounded. Her laughter, though quieter now, was the only light left in those dark days. But even she was changing. One night, While we sat on the porch watching the sun disappear behind the trees, I noticed the look in her eyes. A quiet fear that hadn't been there before. "I saw something," she said, voice low. "In the mirror. Just for a second. It looked like me, but not me." I held her hand tighter. "They're playing with our minds now. They're getting stronger," she whispered. The mutyia around my neck burned faintly at those words. Later that night, I watched as fog rolled in thicker than usual. It wasn't normal fog. It moved with purpose, like fingers searching. A deep howl echoed from the woods, too close to be a dog. I froze, heart pounding, while shadows danced across my walls. Something was coming. That night, I saw them in my dreams. The aswangs. Dozens of them. Their eyes glowed like fireflies. Some had wings like torn leather. Others crawled on all fours, their teeth long and dripping. I stood in the center of the forest in my dream, and they circled me, chanting a name I had never heard before. Alia. Alia. When I woke up, the name stayed with me. I wrote it down in my journal, unsure if it meant anything or if it was me. Isha returned early the next morning, carrying a cloth bag. Inside were herbs, black candles, and a bottle of blessed oil. "My Lola helped me sneak these out," she said. "She said we don't have much time. We need to protect the house." We spent the whole day preparing. Salt lines at every window, symbols on every door. I boiled the herbs and placed the mixture near the trapdoor, where the mutya's energy felt weakest. Isha placed a blessed anteing above the entrance. But no matter how much we prepared, it still felt like we were losing. That night, I went back into the hidden chamber under the house. I had to know more, anything that could help us win. As I reached the altar, I saw a new carving on the wall, one I hadn't noticed before. It was a name, Amara, and next to it, a drawing of the same mutya I now wore. But something was different. In the drawing, the stone was cracked. I reached for my necklace, but it was still whole. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. Not loud, but deliberate. I turned quickly, and standing there was the girl in white, the one from the photograph. Her face was still blurred, eyes still hollow. But this time, she raised a hand and pointed at me. Then she whispered a single word, "Remember," and disappeared. Back upstairs, I opened the oldest journal, the one my Lola kept closest. Inside, I found a folded letter. It was from my mother. "To my daughter, if you find this, I'm sorry. I ran not because I was afraid of the curse. I ran because I was part of it. I made a deal to save you. But the price was high. I had to forget. Forget your real name. Forget who you are. But you're not just Elin. You are the last daughter of Amara." My hand shook. Everything blurred. Was I the one they were chanting about? The mutya pulsed again, stronger now. Outside, the trees groaned. Crows circled the sky in silence. Isha came running into the room, breathless. "They're close," she said. "I saw them in the trees, watching, smiling." We stood at the window and saw the first one. A woman, long black hair, skin sagging. Her eyes were pitch black, her mouth too wide. She stood at the edge of the woods, arms open as if waiting for someone to come home. And beside her, dozens of glowing eyes began to appear. In the trees, on the roof, behind the fence. Isha grabbed my arm. "We have to run." But I shook my head. "We've prepared too much to run now." "But we're not ready," she cried. "You're not ready." "I don't have a choice," I said quietly. "They want me." She looked at me, confused. I told her about the dream, the name, the letter. "You were never meant to carry this alone," she said, tears forming in her eyes. "You're not just fighting monsters. You're fighting the past." The fog was back, thicker, inside the house now. The lights flickered. The air went cold. And then came the screech. Not human, not animal. A sound pulled straight from the deepest pit of fear. We dropped to the floor. The walls shook. The trapdoor rattled. My mutya began to glow, the blue light spilling across the room. Isha reached for the herbs,